country club lunch was Mom's idea. She'd insisted I come despite knowing I hated these gatherings. You need to network properly, she'd said on the phone. Meet people who can help you find a real career. I was 31 years old. I'd been building my sustainable fashion company for 6 years. But to Mom, if it wasn't a corner office at a Fortune 500 company, it wasn't real. I showed up in my usual uniform, vintage Levi's, a gray hoodie, white sneakers. Comfortable, practical. The kind of outfit I wore in the studio when I was pattern cutting or working with fabric samples. Mom's face fell when she saw me at the entrance. That's what you're wearing? She glanced around the club's dining room, where women sat in Chanel suits and statement jewelry. Alexandra, this is a professional lunch. I'm comfortable. You look homeless. I didn't respond. I'd learned years ago that arguing with Mom about clothing was pointless. She valued brand names and price tags. I valued sustainability and craftsmanship. We'd never see eye to eye. Her friends were already at the table. Catherine Ashford, president of the Junior League. Diana Morrison, whose husband owned a chain of luxury car dealerships. Patricia Chin, a corporate lawyer. All of them in their mid-50s. All of them dressed in designer labels. All of them looking at me with barely concealed pity. This is my daughter Alexandra, Mom said as we approached. Her tone carried an apology. She's between opportunities right now. I run my own company, I corrected quietly. A clothing thing, Mom waved dismissively. She makes dresses in her apartment. I design sustainable fashion. We manufacture ethically in Portugal and Guatemala. Catherine smiled politely. How nice. A hobby business. It's not a hobby. Of course not, dear. Diana patted my hand. I'm sure it keeps you busy. But have you thought about what you'll do when you're ready for a real career? My husband's company is always looking for administrative assistants. I took a sip of water and said nothing. Mom launched into her usual narrative. Alexandra had such promise. She went to Parsons, graduated top of her class. We thought she'd work for Ralph Lauren or Oscar de la Renta. Instead, she's been struggling for years with this startup that hasn't gone anywhere. We did $4.7 million in revenue last year, I said calmly. Mom laughed. Alexandra, don't exaggerate. You work out of your apartment. I work out of a 12,000 square foot studio in Brooklyn. We have 34 employees. 34. Patricia raised an eyebrow. That's impressive for a small operation. It's not sustainable, Mom interjected. She's burning through savings. I keep telling her to apply to real fashion houses. She could be an assistant buyer somewhere, maybe work her way up. I'd heard this speech before. Thanksgiving. At Christmas. At my cousin's wedding last summer. The narrative never changed. I was struggling, directionless, wasting my potential on a pipe dream. The truth was more complex. 6 years ago, I'd left my position as an assistant designer at a major fashion house after witnessing the industry's waste firsthand. The overproduction, the textile dumping, the worker exploitation in developing countries. It had made me physically sick. So I'd started small. Very small. 10 pieces made from organic cotton and deadstock fabrics. Sold through an Instagram account. I'd done everything myself. Design, pattern making, sewing, photography, customer service, shipping. The first year, I'd made $23,000 in revenue and netted maybe $8,000 after materials and shipping. Mom had called it playing dress up. But I kept going. Refined the designs. Built relationships with ethical manufacturers. Developed a supply chain focused on low-waste production and fair wages. Grew the Instagram following from 500 to 50,000 to 280,000. Year 2, $180,000 in revenue. Mom said I was barely breaking even. Year 3, $890,000. Mom said it was unsustainable growth. Year 4, $2.1 million. Mom said I was lucky the pandemic made people shop online. Year 5, $3.8 million. Mom said it was probably a bubble. Year 6 just ended 3 months ago. $4.7 million with 32% profit margins and a wait list of 15,000 customers. But Mom had never visited the studio. Never asked to see the financial statements. Never attended any of the industry panels I'd spoken on or the sustainability conferences where I'd been a keynote speaker. She decided 6 years ago that I was failing, and no amount of evidence would change her mind. The problem, Catherine was saying, is that young people today don't understand the value of stability. They want to be entrepreneurs without putting in the years at established companies first. Alexandra never learned patience, Mom agreed. She wanted success immediately. I'd been working 16-hour days for 6 years, but I didn't mention that. Diana leaned forward conspiratorially. My daughter went through a similar phase. She wanted to be a photographer. We finally convinced her to go to law school. She's much happier now with a stable career. That's what I keep telling Alexandra, Mom said. Get a stable job. Save money. Maybe in 10 years when you're financially secure, you can explore this clothing thing as a side project. I am financially secure. Mom laughed again, that tinkling dismissive sound. Darling, you work out of your apartment. I work out of a studio. A 12,000 square foot studio that I own. I bought the building last year. Silence. You bought a building? Patricia's eyebrows rose. In Brooklyn. It's a former textile factory. We use the ground floor and first floor for production and design. I'm renovating the upper floors into a showroom and event space. Mom's smile tightened. Alexandra, this fantasy is getting concerning. You can't just claim to own buildings. I'm not claiming. I own it. $2.3 million purchase price, 40% down payment, mortgage for the rest. Where would you even get? Mom stopped. You know what, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This compulsive lying about success. It's unhealthy. I set down my water glass carefully. I'm not lying. Then show us proof. Diana's tone was kind but skeptical. Surely if you'd actually purchased a building, you'd have documentation? I could have pulled out my phone. Shown them the deed, the mortgage statements, the photos of the studio. But I'd learned something over the years. People who'd decided you were failing didn't want to see evidence of success. They wanted to be right more than they wanted the truth. Believe what you want, I said quietly. See. Mom turned to her friends. She can't back it up because it's not real. I've been worried about her for years. This detachment from reality. Mrs. Ashford? A young woman approached the table, probably early 20s, dressed in business casual. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I had to say, your daughter's work is incredible. I've been following her brand for 3 years. I'm wearing one of her pieces right now. She gestured to her blazer, a tailored design from our spring collection in organic wool. Retail price, $485. Mom blinked. You know Alexandra? Everyone in fashion knows Alexandra Ashford. She's revolutionizing sustainable design. I'm in the Parsons graduate program, and we study her supply chain model in our ethics course. That's nice, Mom said faintly. The young woman turned to me. I'm Emma. I've applied to intern with your company 3 times. I know the competition is intense, but I wanted you to know. Your work inspires me every day. Thank you, I said. Email me directly. Include your portfolio. We're always looking for people who care about the mission. Emma's face lit up. Really? Oh my God, thank you. She pulled out her phone, hands shaking slightly. Can I get a photo? My classmates won't believe this. After she left, the table was quiet. Catherine cleared her throat. So you do have some kind of following? She has 280,000 Instagram followers, Patricia said, scrolling on her phone. And oh, there's an article here from Business of Fashion. Alexandra Ashford, the quiet revolutionary reshaping sustainable luxury. Mom reached for Patricia's phone. Let me see that. There are dozens of articles, Patricia continued scrolling. WWD Fashionista Refinery 29. Alexandra, why didn't you mention any of this? I tried. Multiple times. Mom was reading the Business of Fashion article, her face unreadable. This says your company is valued at $15 million. That was last year's estimate. We're projecting $8 million in revenue this year, so the valuation's probably higher now. $8 million. Diana's voice rose. Dollars. Revenue, not profit. We'll net about $2.5 million after expenses and payroll. The table went silent again. Mom set down the phone. Alexandra, if this is true, why do you dress like that? He gestured at my hoodie. Because I value comfort over appearances. And because I spend my days in a studio working with fabrics and patterns. Designer suits aren't practical for that. But you could afford designer suits. I could. I choose not to. My clothes are ethically made, sustainable, and they reflect my values. That's more important to me than brand names. Catherine was still looking at her own phone. There's something here about Vogue. It says, she stopped, eyes widening. Oh my God. What? Mom leaned over. The new Vogue issue. The most powerful women in fashion cover. There's a preview on their website. Catherine turned her phone around. And there I was. The cover of Vogue. Professional photographer, professional styling, professional everything. The image showed me in my studio surrounded by fabric rolls and dress forms, wearing one of my own designs. A structured blazer in organic cotton over wide-leg trousers. My hair was pulled back, minimal makeup, looking directly at the camera with confidence. The headline, The New Guard, Women Rebuilding Fashion from the Ground Up. And in smaller text, Alexandra Ashford and the Sustainable Luxury Revolution. Mom's face had gone completely white. That's you, Diana whispered. On the cover of Vogue. One of 6 covers, I said quietly. They shot 6 different women for the issue. Mine is the sustainability-focused cover. You're on the cover of Vogue, Catherine repeated as if saying it again would make it make sense. The actual cover. The issue releases next week. The editorial team reached out 4 months ago. They've been working on the feature since January. Patricia was reading from her phone. The article is already posted online. It says you're one of the most influential designers under 40. It calls your business model, the future of ethical fashion. Mom hadn't moved. She was staring at Catherine's phone, at my image on the Vogue cover, as if it might disappear. Why didn't you tell me? She asked finally. I did. For months ago when Vogue first contacted me. You said I was being scammed and that Vogue would never feature a hobby business. I don't remember that. You also said the photo shoot was probably for some small online publication that was pretending to be Vogue. Silence. Mom, I've been trying to tell you about the company's success for 6 years. Every time you've dismissed it. You've called it a hobby, a phase, a pipe dream. You've told your friends I'm unemployed. You've offered to get me interviews for administrative assistant positions. You've never once asked to see the financial statements, visit the studio, or attend any of the industry events where I've spoken. But you never showed me proof. You never wanted to see proof. You decided I was failing and nothing I said mattered because you'd already made up your mind. Catherine set down her phone carefully. I think I need to apologize. We all do. We made assumptions. Based on Mom's narrative, I said. Which wasn't based on facts. It was based on what she wanted to believe about me. Mom's hands were shaking. I was trying to protect you. I've seen so many young people waste years on startups that fail. I didn't want you to be hurt. So instead of supporting me, you publicly humiliated me, told everyone I was directionless and unemployed, offered me administrative assistant jobs. I didn't know. Because you didn't ask. Because you saw the hoodie and the lack of designer labels and decided that meant I was struggling. You never considered that maybe I was succeeding on my own terms, in my own way. Diana's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then looked at me with something like awe. Alexandra, I'm getting texts from friends. The Vogue cover is going viral on social media. Everyone's sharing it. Patricia was scrolling rapidly. The article is beautiful. It talks about your supply chain, your commitment to fair wages, your innovative approach to luxury sustainability. There are photos of your studio, your team, the manufacturing facilities in Portugal. And there's a quote here, Catherine added, reading from her phone. My mother thought I was failing because I chose purpose over prestige. I built a multimillion-dollar company while she told people I was unemployed. Success doesn't always look the way people expect it to. Mom closed her eyes. You said that? To Vogue. I was asked about obstacles I'd faced. Family doubt was a big one. You made me sound like a villain. I told the truth. You've spent 6 years treating me like a failure. That's not villainous. It's just sad. The table had gone completely quiet. Women at nearby tables were starting to notice the commotion, phones coming out, people pointing. Is that Alexandra Ashford? Someone whispered loudly. From the Vogue cover? Oh my God, it is. Two women approached tentatively. We're so sorry to interrupt, but we had to say, we love your brand. We've been customers for 3 years. Can we get a photo? I stood up, smiled for the photos, thanked them graciously. They asked about the new collection, about the Vogue feature, about the sustainability initiatives. I answered their questions with the same patience I used with every customer, every interview, every interaction. When they left, I sat back down. Mom was crying silently, mascara running. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I should have listened. I should have believed you. You should have respected me enough to take me seriously. To ask questions instead of making assumptions. To support me even when my path didn't look like yours. You're right. You're absolutely right. She reached for my hand. I let her take it but didn't squeeze back. How do I fix this? I don't know if you can. Alexandra, please. I'm your mother. I love you. I made a terrible mistake, but I love you. You love the version of me on the Vogue cover. The version that external validation has confirmed is successful. But you didn't love me 6 months ago when I was doing the exact same work. That's not true. Isn't it? 6 months ago you were telling people I was unemployed. Today you want to fix things because Vogue confirmed I'm legitimate. Your love is conditional on external approval. Catherine and Diana were looking uncomfortable, clearly wishing they were anywhere else. Patricia had the grace to look ashamed. I think we should go, Diana said quietly to the others. They stood, made excuses and retreated quickly. Mom and I sat alone at the table. What do you want me to do? She asked finally. I want you to acknowledge that you were wrong. Not just about the company's success, but about the way you treated me. The public humiliation, the dismissiveness, the refusal to listen. All of it. I was wrong. I was completely wrong. And I want you to understand that this isn't fixable with an apology. You spent 6 years making me feel like a failure. 6 years of telling people I was unemployed. 6 years of dismissing my work as a hobby. That damage doesn't disappear because Vogue put me on a cover. He was crying harder now. I'll do anything. Tell me what to do. Start by reading the article. Actually read it. Learn about what I've built, how I built it, why it matters. Not because Vogue says it matters, but because I'm your daughter and my work deserves your respect. Okay. And stop telling people I'm unemployed or directionless or struggling. Stop offering me administrative assistant jobs. Stop acting like my success is temporary or lucky or unsustainable. I will. I promise. And maybe consider why you needed Vogue to tell you I was successful before you believe me. Why my word wasn't enough. Why 6 years of evidence didn't matter until an external authority validated it. She nodded, wiping her eyes with her napkin. My phone had been buzzing constantly throughout the conversation. I glanced at it now. Text messages, emails, Instagram notifications. Hundreds of them. Congratulations on the Vogue cover. So proud of you. You're an inspiration. Your story moved me to tears. From customers, colleagues, industry professionals, former classmates. People who'd been watching my journey, supporting my work, celebrating my success. People who'd believed in me without needing Vogue to confirm it first. I need to go, I said standing. I have a team meeting at 3 and then I'm doing an interview with NPR about the Vogue feature. Can we talk later? Please. Maybe. I need time to process this. Alexandra. I looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman who'd raised me, who'd paid for Parsons, who'd always wanted the best for me. Who'd also spent 6 years publicly humiliating me because my version of success didn't match her expectations. I'm not saying never, I said quietly. I'm saying not today. Not this week. I need space to figure out how I feel about all of this. She nodded, still crying. I understand. I walked out of the country club into the bright afternoon sun. My phone buzzed again. A text from my studio manager. Vogue cover crashed our website. We've had 40,000 new followers in 2 hours. Pre-orders are through the roof. This is insane. I smiled and texted back. Emergency team meeting. Let's figure out how to handle the volume without compromising quality or our ethical standards. Another text, this one from my best friend Maya. Saw the cover. You look like a goddess. Also saw your quote about your mom. Savage but deserved. How are you feeling? I stopped on the sidewalk considering the question. How was I feeling? Vindicated? Yes. Hurt that it took Vogue for my mother to believe in me? Absolutely. Angry about 6 years of dismissal and public humiliation? Without question. But also proud. Because I'd built something meaningful despite the doubt. Because I'd stayed true to my values even when it would have been easier to conform to expectations. Because I'd created jobs, changed lives, and proven that ethical fashion could be profitable. And that pride, that deep, unshakable pride in what I'd built, that existed completely independent of the Vogue cover. I'd been successful yesterday before the cover released. I'd be successful tomorrow regardless of whether anyone else recognized it. That was the real revelation. Not the Vogue feature. Not Mom's tearful apology. Not the viral social media attention. The revelation was that I'd never needed their validation in the first place. I texted Maya back, feeling powerful, feeling vindicated, feeling ready to hire your ass if you're finally willing to quit that corporate job and join me. Her response came immediately, I'll have my resignation letter in tomorrow. When do I start? I laughed out loud on the sidewalk, drawing looks from passers-by. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Alexandra Ashford? Speaking. This is James Chin from the New York Times. We're running a feature on the Vogue article and your quote about family doubt. We'd love to interview you about building a business without traditional support. Do you have time this week? Let me check my calendar and get back to you. Of course. For what it's worth, your story is incredibly inspiring. The way you built something meaningful despite the skepticism, that's the kind of resilience people need to hear about. After he hung up, I stood on the sidewalk for a moment watching the city move around me. 6 years ago, I'd started with 10 dresses and an Instagram account. Today I was on the cover of Vogue. Tomorrow, who knew? But the trajectory had always been there. The success had always been building. The only thing that had changed was other people's awareness of it. I'd learned something important over these 6 years. External validation feels good, but it's unreliable. Today Vogue put me on a cover. Tomorrow, someone else would be the fashion industry's favorite story. That's how the news cycle worked. But the company, the real, tangible business with employees and customers and impact, that was permanent. That was what I'd built. That was what mattered. Not the Vogue cover. Not Mom's approval. Not the viral social media attention. The work. The mission. The daily effort of building something meaningful. That was success. And I'd known it all along. Even when no one else did. I walked toward the subway, phone still buzzing with notifications. Another text from Maya. I'm serious about joining you. I've been watching you build something incredible while everyone doubted. I want to be part of that. I smiled and typed, first meeting Monday. Prepare for the chaos. We're about to scale fast. Can't wait. At the subway entrance, I paused and looked back at the country club. Mom was probably still sitting at that table processing everything. Her friends were probably calling everyone they knew, sharing the news about the daughter they'd pitted an hour ago. I felt a moment of sympathy for her. She'd been genuinely trying to protect me from disappointment. She genuinely believed I was struggling. Her intentions, at least, had been rooted in love, even if her execution had been devastating. But I also knew something she was only beginning to understand. Protection built on doubt wasn't protection at all. It was control. It was fear masquerading as concern. Real support would have looked like curiosity. Like asking questions. Like visiting the studio. Like believing me when I explained what I was building. Real support wouldn't have required Vogue to confirm I was legitimate. My phone buzzed again. This time a text from Mom. I read the article. All of it. Including the part about me. You were right. About everything. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I love you. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I typed, I love you too. But love isn't enough. I need respect. I need you to believe in me without requiring external validation. That's going to take time to rebuild. Her response was immediate. I understand. Take all the time you need. I'll be here. I put the phone in my pocket and descended into the subway. The train was crowded, but I found a spot by the door. A woman across from me was reading something on her phone, then looked up suddenly, eyes widening. Are you Alexandra Ashford? Yes. From the Vogue cover? I just saw it. Oh my God. She turned to her friend. This is the designer I was telling you about. The sustainable fashion one. Her friend pulled out her phone, found the cover and gasped. "That's amazing. Can we follow you on Instagram?" I gave them my handle, answered questions about the new collection, recommended pieces for their body types and style preferences. They thanked me profusely and went back to their phones, probably ordering from the website immediately. That was the real success. Not the cover itself, but what it represented. Connection with people who cared about the mission. People who wanted to shop ethically, dress beautifully, and support businesses that aligned with their values. I'd built a community. A movement even. And that was worth more than any magazine cover could ever be. The subway reached my stop. I exited into Brooklyn, walking the familiar route to the studio. As I approached the building, my building, the one I owned, I could see lights on in the windows. My team was already there, probably managing the website crash, fielding customer service inquiries, coordinating with manufacturers about increased production. I pulled out my keys and unlocked the door. Inside the studio was organized chaos. Fabric samples everywhere, dress forms with half-finished designs, computers open to order management systems, phones ringing constantly. "She's here," someone shouted. My team erupted in applause. "Have you seen the numbers?" my studio manager called out. "We've done more business in 4 hours than we did all of last month." "Have we maintained production standards?" I asked, hanging up my jacket. "Yes. We're not accepting orders we can't fulfill ethically. But the wait list has grown by 8,000 people since this morning." "Good. Let's talk about scaling production without compromising our supply chain relationships." Conference room in 5 minutes. As I walked through the studio, team members congratulated me, hugged me, showed me social media posts celebrating the cover. These people, who'd believed in the mission before Vogue, who'd worked long hours for fair wages, who'd helped build something meaningful, they were my real validation. In the conference room, I pulled up our production spreadsheets and financial projections. "Okay," I said to the assembled team. "Let's be smart about this. The Vogue cover is incredible exposure, but it's temporary. What we need is sustainable growth that maintains our values. How do we scale without exploiting workers or compromising quality?" For the next 3 hours we strategized. Contacted our manufacturing partners in Portugal and Guatemala to discuss capacity. Reviewed applications from potential new suppliers who met our ethical standards. Planned hiring for the studio. Projected cash flow for the next year. It was the work I loved. The real work, beneath the glamour of magazine covers and viral moments. Building something that mattered. By the time I left the studio at 8 p.m. we had a plan. Careful, ethical scaling. No shortcuts. No compromising the mission for quick growth. My phone buzzed with another text from Mom. "Your father and I would love to take you to dinner this weekend. To celebrate properly. And to apologize properly. Would you be willing?" I thought about it as I walked to the subway. 6 years of dismissal didn't disappear with one apology. The hurt was real. The damage was done. But she was trying. And maybe that was enough to start rebuilding. I typed, "Sunday, 6 p.m. You choose the restaurant." "But Mom, this isn't about the Vogue cover. It's about you understanding and respecting the work I've been doing all along. Can you do that?" Her response came quickly, "Yes. I promise. I'll spend all week reading about your company. Everything I should have read years ago." "Hey. Sunday then." I put the phone away and boarded the train home. The woman next to me was reading Vogue's online article on her tablet. I could see my own face on her screen, the studio photos, the quotes about building ethical fashion despite skepticism. She looked up and caught me watching. "Sorry," I said. "That's just strange to see." He glanced at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen. "Wait. Are you— oh my God. You're her. You're Alexandra Ashford." "Yes. This article is incredible. I've been reading your story. The part about your family doubting you, that really resonated. I'm starting my own business and my parents think I'm crazy. Are you passionate about it?" "Completely." "Then trust yourself. External validation will come eventually, but it won't mean as much as you think. The real validation comes from building something you believe in." She nodded slowly. "Thank you. I needed to hear that." The train reached my stop. I stood to leave and the woman touched my arm. "For what it's worth," she said, "you're right about the external validation. But it must feel good to prove them all wrong." I smiled. "It does. But I already knew I was right. The Vogue cover just made it public. I exited the train and walked to my apartment. A modest one-bedroom in Brooklyn that I'd kept even after the company became profitable. I could have afforded something bigger, fancier. But I liked the simplicity. The reminder of where I'd started. Inside, I made tea and sat by the window looking out at the Brooklyn skyline. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from my former professor at Parsons. Saw the Vogue cover. Always knew you'd change the industry. Proud of you, Alexandra. You stayed true to your vision even when it was hard. That's real success. I set the phone down and sipped my tea. Tomorrow the work would continue. More orders to fulfill, more strategic decisions, more building. The Vogue cover would fade from the news cycle. The viral moment would pass. The attention would move elsewhere. But the company, the real, tangible business built on ethics and craftsmanship and purpose, that would remain. And that was what mattered. Not Mom's validation. Not the Vogue cover. Not the country club's sudden respect. Just the work. The daily, unglamorous, essential work of building something meaningful. That was the real story. That was the real success. And I'd known it all along.